Now, when it comes to taxes, do you think that there should be a flat tax or abolish the tax system and do an import tax?
Whoa. I'm not as privy on the import tax. How would that work?
This is something that Trump proposed.
Oh, the tariffs. So
The
other
tariffs.
countries send their stuff in here, we tax them. Wouldn't that just cause the prices we pay for all of that to get jacked up?
They're saying that the money you save would offset that. So
But
imagine.
if I'm the other country, I'm going to just charge more for my thing to the U.S. if I know I'm going to get taxed more. That's what I would be doing.
Yeah, but then fewer people would be buying, products from other countries. I think his idea was just to get more companies in the U.S. to be creating those products.
Sure, and I'm all for that, but I don't know that the U.S. can compete at a level to where it's going to make sense for me to buy a $70 t-shirt because it was made in the U.S.
Mm-hmm.
So unless we can get our manufacturing to be competitive and to still keep profits here, it's always going to make more sense to get it cheaper outside of here. So I don't think that's the solution. I would be for a flat tax, though. I think that's a much more fair system. It still causes the wealthier to pay more because 10% of $1 million is more than 10% of $100,000. And I do wonder what that would do for the economy. And it would avoid all of the back and forth of you're not paying if everyone pays 10%, we got equality. We did it.
Yeah.
We did it.
What's interesting is that Warren Buffett recently sold a big chunk of his stock. And a lot of people recently were speculating, does he know something that the rest of us don't? Is he timing the market?
Something's about to implode.
Are we about to see a stock market crash? He came out and clarified, which I found really interesting, that the reason he sold wasn't because he thought that there was a stock market crash or that something was looming. It was because he wanted to lock in long-term capital gains before a potential increase.
Oh.
How smart is that? And he did
That's
this,
so
by the
Warren.
way, months before Kamala came out with her 28% capital
Because this has
gains
been looming,
proposal.
this whole capital gains tax.
Right. Warren Buffett is so smart. I think he's thinking a few steps ahead of everyone else. Like Nick Ocado might be 2 steps ahead. Warren Buffett is 3 steps ahead.
You got to respect that
And
hustle.
The fact that he's selling makes me tend to think that he has an inclination of what's going to happen, which is that long-term capital gains tax rates are probably going up, and he's getting ahead of it now, locking in, 20 to 24.3 or whatever it is after the investment tax.
Yeah. Well, on
he's
the amount
locking
of
it in.
money he has, like those numbers matter. For the average American selling their stocks, which it doesn't even affect, not a big deal to go from 24 to 28%. But when you're talking about hundreds of millions of dollars, it adds up.
Yeah. Realistically, I think for most people, it's not going to make a difference. But if you're worth probably more than $10 million, you got to start looking at the tax rates and thinking, hey, do I want to lock this in now, guaranteed, or take a risk in the future?
So you got to be thinking
For
about this,
Warren
Graham.
Buffett.
If you're not Graham, keep scrolling. You got to be thinking about this. What are you going to do? Sell off some real estate?
No.
Okay, you're hanging on.
I'm going to hang on until it goes back down again.
Does the election affect you two?
Yeah, I would say it does.
In what ways?
Taxes, I would say, is probably the biggest one. If tax rates go up, it directly affects us probably the most.
Are we talking income tax or
Income
other
taxes.
types?
Income taxes.
Okay.
I would say that that's it. It's not going to be the end of the world. I mean, listen, if taxes go from 37 to 39.6, I don't care. I think that's probably the most realistic outcome of anything. It's probably that. It's not the end of the world, but it is something.
An extra 2% of your income getting taxed.
That's probably the worst case, realistically. The capital gains could be iffy, going from 20 to 28%. But it depends also if they cap it. Like, if it's, incomes over 10 million a year, it's not going to make a difference to me. But, it will to somebody.
Well, it's one of the reasons
So-
I'm a big fan of my Roth retirement accounts, is just knowing ahead of time I paid whatever the tax rate was today for my income and not worrying about what my income will be in the future. So if I have a Roth 401k with $2 million, that's $2 million of net money that I get to spend and enjoy without Uncle Sam getting his grubby hands on it. So that's my mentality around the Roth. And I don't want to think about, well, what if your income's lower in retirement? I'm like, what if it's more? What if I'm spending like crazy because we're having a good time? I don't want to be limited in that regard.
The only thing I worry about with those accounts, and it's doubtful that it'll happen, but they could always say, hey, we're changing the rules now. And now
double taxed?
Now instead of 59.5, now you got to be 65 to take it out, or like little things like this. They could always say, well, I don't know how the weasel,
Yeah.
I just have a feeling at some point someone's going to try to attack these accounts. Not to say that they'll be successful at it, but
there might be an American
nothing I
revolt
see
by
is
then.
guaranteed.
We'll see if the world still exists by then.
That's probably smart.
I
to
just
see.
take it one day at a time.
That's fair.
I hope I get to see my daughter, grow up and go to college, get married, and do all the things. But at this point, fingers
Move
crossed.
out at 25.
Moving out at probably earlier than that. I moved
debt-free.
out at 20. I moved from Boston to Mobile, Alabama, finished school. Did you guys live at home for a while beyond 18?
No, I moved out as soon as I went to
20s.
college.
Yeah.
Which was 18 years old or so?
20.
Okay. How about you, Graham? Were you?
Early 20s.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I think it worked out for all of us.
Mm-hmm.